I've got my trusty coffee and the caffeine is starting to kick in. Good morning, mushrooms, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, brothers, sisters, mothers, misters, and to all my cousins, it is time to plug in and break down the news. Get this train a-chugging. How I could better serve you to enhance your experience and your vocabulary. I bet you probably do know somebody who could really use this and would really enjoy this, so please pass it along to a friend. The virus is cutting a lifeline for the poor. And imagine you're in the sea. Ah, help, help! And then the helicopter comes and they drop a rope down to you and you grab onto said rope and the helicopter is pulling you to safety. This is your lifeline. It is the thing that is saving you. It's keeping you alive. And so let's look at the caption of the photo and we can understand a little bit more about that headline. Migrant workers, those are the people that move around seasonally or from country to country looking for work because especially the economic circumstances in their original home aren't very good and there is no work or no good work. And so they move around, they migrate to find work. And so migrant workers are being laid off. Remember, that's being fired, but not due to underperformance or bad behavior or something. It is purely for economic reasons. We just don't have the work for you. We're not earning enough money now away from home and they have no work because COVID-19 is crippling economies. To cripple something is to, make it so it doesn't work. It's crippling economies and migrant workers are being fired, maybe temporarily, but fired, laid off. But the problem here is families who rely on them, their remittances are feeling the consequences. Remittances, this is pretty much the only way we use this word, and it's the money sent home to the home country by those migrant workers. There are countries out there with a significant portion of their economy is based and fueled by the remittances from people who are working abroad and then sending money back. So the workers are being laid off, therefore they're not earning money, therefore they can't send the money back home. Their families rely on that money. They need that for survival because remember, back in the home country, there isn't any sort of work. Consequences, negative result from actions taken. And so if you do something, be careful because you're going to have to face the consequences. There were unexpected consequences, unintended consequences, inevitable consequences. That's why they say don't play with fire, because inevitably, eventually you will get burnt. That can be both literal and figurative. So of course, the economic recession, because the economy is receding, moving backwards, downwards, becoming less. Remember, we had receding last week, talking about Asian men's hairlines, and also the tides can be receding. A recession coming from to recede, pulling back, getting smaller, and hopefully doesn't turn into a full-blown depression. Yay! To deflect, it's like you have a shield and somebody's attacking you with a sword, and you use the shield to protect yourself and deflect the blows from the sword. Something hits it and then changes the direction and makes it move away. They're not deflecting swords or blows from fists, etc. They're deflecting blame. Yeah, it's often used this way figuratively. And what blame for? Dependent preposition, blame for, blame somebody for doing something. And they are also escalating the reopening push, to escalate, to make bigger, higher, or it's often used with negative sort of things. Argument suddenly escalated into a fist fight. I'm sorry, I'm not coming up with the collocations Monday morning. The wheels are not turning full speed yet. We have lots of different words for hit. Yes, we've got hit, and we've had beat and batter. Not like the wind, blow, but a blow, as I just used from deflecting blows of a sword. Another one is to strike. The virus has struck. Strike, struck, or strike, struck, stricken. Now, stricken is the third form of the verb sometimes, and only with bad things. Basic, has been stricken with an illness, has been stricken with doubt. Just so you know though, it is an alternate third form of the verb, just like hang, hang, hung, hung, or hang, hang, hanged. English is ridiculous. Remember, there aren't rules, there are only tendencies, and exceptions are basically the only rule. 3 countries have already defaulted on their debt. Not do or be unable to do something that you are obligated to do. It pretty much always collocates with debt. The countries are in default, and so that means they're not paying their bills. So 3 countries have already defaulted on their debt. They're not making payments to the bonds and other things that they've issued, paying other countries and or the IMF, or who knows who they are in debt. Lips don't touch. To. Who knows who they're in debt to? Ooh, I think today we should get sushi for dinner. Some takeaway sushi. That is a suggestion. I just suggested that we have sushi for dinner to give the idea that. Because when we're making a suggestion, we're just giving an idea. Why don't we get some sushi? Just to cut to the chase, commencement is a fancy word for the graduation ceremony. And so Obama's making a speech at a graduation ceremony. It's interesting though, because to commence as a verb means to start or begin, but especially some sort of like event, whereas you're actually graduating from high school or from university. So it seems like the end of something, but really, life is just beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, let the commencement commence. To start or begin. Silly teacher stuff. Teacher jokes. Is that Han Solo's daughter? Just like an airplane takes off or sails in a store can even take off. Yeah, with liftoff, it's the same thing. It means leaving the ground, but in a vertical fashion, so there's not many things that can really lift off, but rockets can. Houston, we have liftoff. Bids for Rock Legends guitars start at $1 million. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's Kurt Cobain's guitar that is being auctioned off. Remember, $5, do I hear $5? We got 1 million, 1 million, 1.5, 1.25, 101.6, 1.7, 1.9 to the man in the corner, going once, going twice, sold to the man in the corner for $1.9 million. You're now the proud owner of Kurt Cobain's guitar. Which is ironic because he always smashed guitars, and so are you just buying pieces? I don't know. To bid on something, on the item, or to bid for something because that's the thing that you want. This is the goal, to win back tourists, and they're not actually bidding like in an auction, but it's an attempt to get the tourists back, and they're probably doing some sort of making deals or providing some sort of incentives to incentivize, to lure the tourists back, recycled vocabulary, to attract them, to lure them back to Australia. Bring those amazing tourist monies into the economy, and some viruses probably. So they're having a chat back and forth in the lockdown, and if somebody lets fly, what that means is to let insults fly most of the time. And so he's like, they're just talking, he's like, oh yeah, and you're ugly, and you smell like a monkey, and you suck at tennis, man, and why can't you spell right? Oh, that's right, because you're from Serbia or Croatia or some common collocation, to throw insults at somebody. He was throwing them, but it's like the insults were already there, like a box full of butterflies, and you open the box and you just let the insult butterflies fly away. The monster emerged from the swamp, emerged from the shadows. To come into view, he's not emerging from the sea. He was on a boat, not in the water. He was alone at sea on a boat with no connection to the world. And so he was in a position where he didn't know anything. And if you don't know something, then you are in the dark, right? Because knowledge is light and illumination. And so it's like he was in the darkness of not knowing. You could say the darkness, he was ignorant, not because he is ignorant as a person, but because of the situation, because of the lack of connection to the world, he was ignorant of what was going on in the world. And so then suddenly, from the darkness of ignorance and not knowing, emerging into the light of, oh gee, what the hell is going on in this world? Now he knows. At least he was social distancing all by himself on a boat in the middle of the sea. Lack. It means that you don't have something. The world starts a little bit slowly, the wheels start turning because everyone's lacking sleep after the weekend. To lack sleep, to lack patience, to lack the money to do something. And if you're immune to something, means it can't hurt, harm, or damage you, will expose a vulnerability in the security of some website, and then the passwords and the accounts leak and they're sold on the dark web. Somebody exposed a vulnerability, or not just exposed, but exploited a vulnerability. And as usual with phrasal verbs, we typically have a one-word verb that's a little bit more formal. And that is to accelerate, to increase your velocity, or the go pedal. Nobody calls it that. To propel means to make something go. They are propelled by what? Propellers, like one of those old school airplanes. Ta-da! But as we say, sometimes that's how the cookie crumbles. Death-defying. Ooh, we've had to defy on here many times. To challenge or to go against or to break the rules. To defy the law of gravity. To defy the authorities. To defy the lockdown orders. To defy your parents. Never defy your parents. But here, it's like he's defying death. So I don't know, he's climbing up something, climbing, challenging death. Like, what's up, death? You got nothing on me. Gravity schmavity. Some guy was doing it, and the movie maker was basically pooping in his pants because he was terrified, I guess. That's how I understand the headlines, at least. GULP. GULP. It's an onomatopoeia, a word that is intended to sound like the thing that it is. Yes, and so here you got coffee, it's hot, and so you just take small little drinks. To sip, a sip. Sip hot beverages. A sip of coffee. Drink, of course, is normal. Remember, and we've had it before, the verb for taking foods, solids, or liquids from your mouth and transferring them down to your stomach is to swallow. A really, really big swallow is a gulp. I don't know if you could hear that. I was trying to do it for dramatic effect. But it's that sound in your throat when you take a really big swallow. Is this about drinking? No, it's not about drinking, because often when we're in a situation where we're nervous or we're afraid, you make that same, it's like saying that she's scared or nervous. Look, we get consequences again. Dangerous consequences of Trump's oversight purge. In terms of business and government and so on, it's usually getting rid of people who don't agree with your point of view. That guy was providing oversight, coming from the verb to oversee, to watch over. It's like you're the boss, you're in control, and you're looking down on watching how everything happens so that way you can manage it and you can control it. And so we have agencies and committees that are supposed to provide oversight, to watch it, to manage it, to make sure that nothing fishy is going on, nothing suspicious is going on, to make sure that everything is, the wheels are turning the way that they should be. And he doesn't like people watching what he's doing to make sure things are being done correctly, and so he is getting rid of them. He is purging the government of people that won't just do what he wants them to do. Thinking about that idea of oversight, who's overseeing it? Beep. Watchdogs. Just like a dog that's alert and guarding, watching, waiting, looking for some threats or something wrong so it can bark and let you know that something's going wrong. Watchdogs are the people that provide oversight to make sure that everything is going fine. No one's breaking the law, especially. A lapdog is just one of those worthless little dogs that's like yay big, and it just sits in your lap and you pet it and it's afraid to be without you, and it'll do just whatever you want it to do, and it's terrified without you, and they're basically useless. That's the lapdog. Love me, love me. Yeah. And last but not least, little Scooby-Doo. Either way, it's not Louise, not Thelma and Louise. It's Velma and Daphne. That's the other one. Those four, and they would go around and solve mysteries, right? But it's not like they were ever looking for the mysteries. They just found themselves in the middle of it, and then they tried to solve the mystery. And at the end, they'd always like pull the mask off some guy and like, oh, it's Mr. Johnson from the supermarket. And then that guy would say, and I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids. And to meddle in something or to meddle with something is to get involved in a situation that you shouldn't be involved in. You shouldn't meddle with other people's families and or relationships. Playing with fire, you don't want to meddle with this. Don't meddle with my life. And we'll go back to the White Room, to my asylum. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that has been it for today, Monday the 18th of May. Thanks for tuning in to English Otherwise. And please do hit the like, subscribe, follow, etc. Pass me along to a friend. Share the love, spread the word. That has been breaking down the news, and I hope you all have a beautiful, wonderful day. May your week get off to a stupendous start. And so, bye-bye.